Good day and welcome to Insider's View. I'm your host, Melissa Handrahan. Today, we have a one-on-one with Canada's most hard-working Member of Parliament. He's from Barrie, but he also happens to be a leadership hopeful for the Ontario PC Party's leadership race. And we're sitting with Patrick Brown. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Melissa, it's a real privilege to be with you today.
I don't know how you do it. You're always on the go. You were on the go as an MP. Traveling the world, traveling across the country, getting the Conservative message out. You've been on the go since you were just a little boy, working as a volunteer for the PC Party. And now you're running to be the leader of the party. I mean, where is all this energy coming from?
A lot of caffeine, a lot of chai. a lot of chai in Brampton.
Well, there you go. That's another thing that's very special about you is that you're so good with the South Asian community. How many times have you been to India?
15 times. So, you know, I like to say that I feel as comfortable in Jalandhar, Ahmedabad, or Kerala as I do in Toronto, Brampton, or Ottawa. And obviously the contributions of the South Asian community, the contributions of the Indo-Canadian community in particular have been phenomenal for Canada, and it's been an honor to serve as chair of the Canada-India Parliamentary Association for 9 years, because I've got to meet a lot of the entrepreneurs, a lot of the leaders in the Indo-Canadian diaspora, and I see again and again that businesses that are succeeding, that people succeeding in every walk of life, from culture to arts to sciences, are Indo-Canadians, and it's a real privilege to get to know many in the community. Well,
a lot of Indo-Canadians are supporting you and probably encouraged you to run for the leadership. What was the main motivating factor for you that you wanted to jump into this race? You know,
there's a number of factors. You know, obviously, I felt for a long time that Ontario has been on the wrong track. Losing 300,000 manufacturing jobs, seeing Ontario going from the leader in Confederation to one that is struggling quite significantly, is alarming for anyone that loves this province and cares about the place we live. You know, the last election was, there's no way to put it, was a disaster. It was one of the worst campaigns I've ever seen run. It was run top down without listening to the party membership. And I was very frustrated with the result. Frustrated that a small group at Queen's Park had dropped the ball and allowed the Liberals to be re-elected by default. And that caused a flurry of calls after the election from friends around the province who thought that I could serve the PC Party to right this ship so that we could serve Ontario.
And prior to coming into politics, let's talk a little bit about your life and how your life experiences is probably going to really help you in this new role.
Well, my professional background is I'm a lawyer. I only practiced briefly for a year and a half, so I'm not infected by the practice of law.
Good.
But good, as you say. It's not that bad being a lawyer. But no, it's certainly serving in a legal capacity, serving as a lawyer has given me understandings of the underpinnings of legislation. And with that, in Ottawa, I was able to serve on the Supreme Court vetting committee, on the Justice Committee, was able to utilize that understanding on the Scrutiny of Regulations Committee, where we went over government legislation. But I also served, prior to entering the Federal House, 2 terms on the City of Barrie Council. I was the chair of the Finance Committee in my second term, served on a variety of important committees serving the city. I went to the University of Toronto, studied political science and French, and I went to the University of Windsor for law school, and also spent a number of summers in the University of Trois-Rivières in Quebec and the University of Laval in Quebec.
Wow. Well, you've obviously been all across the province, and so you have roots everywhere. I'm just curious, what's your typical day like as a leadership candidate? Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you see?
Well, I'm usually in a different city every day. On average, we have 9 to 10 to 12 events a day, and normally it's with groups that have an interest in my campaign, whether it is signing up as new members, and that period is now closed, or groups that want to hear about my plans and my aspirations for Ontario. But it's a giant province, and I was committed at the beginning of this campaign to reach every corner of this province, whether it's Fort Frances or Moosonee, or the heart of the city of Toronto. I wanted to make sure there wasn't a corner that we did not touch, in areas that you haven't seen Conservatives go, whether it was a francophone community like Hearst, Ontario in the far north, or whether it is neighborhoods like Thorncliffe Park or Jane and Finch in Toronto. We had significant membership drives in all those locations where we engaged people to participate in the PC party. And frankly, those were areas where we saw little to no participation before, but we showed up, we listened, we consulted, and we were able to bind interest towards our collective goal of rebuilding the PC party, resetting the PC party to make sure it's one that's reflective of this great province and will give voice to the concerns that exist around this province.
Talking about the concerns, what are some of the things you're hearing? I mean, it's such a big province, and the problems in Toronto are totally different than Northern Ontario. So what is it that you're hearing that's a common theme that brings us all together? Well,
there's a lot of common themes on every front. You look at education, there's concerns that we have an education system that is graduating people for jobs that existed 10, 15 years ago, not the jobs of today and tomorrow. You look at the healthcare system, the diminishments to preventative health care, whether it's chiropractic care, physiotherapy, the lack of investment in long-term care, all speak to a government that continues to cut outside the hospital, and it's causing gridlock and suffocation at the hospital setting. And obviously in-hospital care is significantly more than outside hospital care. So the shortages in those areas are pretty acute no matter where you go. And you look at long-term care, it's 1/10 the price of a hospital bed. So it's nuts that everywhere in the province we're hearing about wait times in hospitals for people waiting to get into long-term care. It's not the right allocation of resources in the healthcare system, and I'm looking forward to being the leader of the PC party that can speak in a thoughtful manner about how we make sure our healthcare system works for Ontarians.
And when you go on to become successful as the leader of the PC party, I'm just curious, what's the secret to beating Kathleen Wynne?
I think there's a number of areas where the party simply dropped the ball. We allowed ourselves to become the ballot question, whether it's faith-based funding, 100,000 job cuts, chain gangs. We've produced a policy in the past that was disconnected from the grassroots. I think our grassroots have great ideas on how to spur job creation, great ideas on how to strengthen the manufacturing sector. Yet we didn't listen to those party volunteers, those hardworking volunteers that have knocked on doors, donated, and been the bedrock of support for the party. The previous leadership allowed the channel to be changed. Instead of the focus being on the corruption, the mismanagement, the OPP scandals, the job losses, it became about bad ideas from the opposition. I don't want to run a campaign on faith-based funding. I don't want to run a campaign on 100,000 job cuts. Frankly, I thought it was a bad idea. I can understand why voters around the province were scared and concerned about that proposal. I want us to be a PC party that talks directly to Ontarians about how we're going to grow the economy, how we're going to create jobs, and I think we do that. And we do that in a forceful, thoughtful, objective manner. I think there's going to be an audience for our party in every corner of this province.
It's not very often we get a leadership hopeful on our show, so when we come back after this short break, we're going to get inside the mind of Patrick Brown on what it's like to be a leadership hopeful. Welcome back. We're up close and personal with Member of Parliament from Barrie, Patrick Brown, and PC Party leadership hopeful. So it's very interesting to kind of get into your mindset on what this leadership experience has been like, because I'm sure it's totally different than anything you've encountered before. Would you say?
Yes, in the respect that I've always considered myself to be very busy. I've always kept a very active schedule in my constituency, attending every possible event I could and helping any possible family I could. The challenge with this is there's more events and there's more opportunities than you can possibly imagine. This is a gigantic province, and so the schedule brings a new understanding to the word busy. It brings a new understanding to the intensity of a day, in the sense that sometimes we can be in 4 or 5 cities and 8 or 9 speaking occasions. So it is fast-paced. It's tough to keep up with emails and phone calls, but you know, we're going at 110 miles nonstop to keep pace, and I'm doing my best to return phone calls and emails and get to every speaking engagement I can. But this is, like I said, there's no other way to put it. This is a gigantic province. There
must be some challenges that you've encountered along the way.
There's always challenges in any campaign. You know, there is at the beginning of this campaign, we were certainly the underdog. So. You know, fundraising was the first hurdle, but you know, we were able to, as the campaign grew in momentum, we continued to get more and more donations, and now that we've come out with a significant lead in memberships over all the other candidates, you know, more and more fundraising opportunities exist, and we're very thankful for that. A lot of people wanting to help the campaign, donations of all sizes, which is obviously a sign of a campaign that is gaining momentum by the day. And I'd also say one of the challenges that I face is that obviously, you know, I still have an active schedule in the city of Barrie. So I have my annual half marathon that I was putting on, my charity hockey night in Barrie that supports the Cancer Centre, my pancake breakfast, my chili fest, events that have become a staple in Barrie to support local charities and have become, frankly, the primary revenue stream for a number of charities in Barrie, and I never wanted to let those charities down by not doing those events. So despite being rather preoccupied with the draft campaign and my own campaign, because obviously when I was considering the prospect of running and folks were encouraging me to run, I did a tour of the province in the summer to hear what folks were saying. Despite going through all of that, we've still been able to make all these events successful. You know, the Barrie Half Marathon supported 6 charities, raised new record amounts, $65,000. Hockey Night in Barrie, which supports the Youth Mental Health Unit at the hospital and the Cancer Care Centre, raised $251,000, bringing my tally of funds raised through my charity hockey game to $1.4 million. And I should note that a number of prominent residents from this area have participated. Obviously, Mississauga's Don Cherry, Brampton's Rick Nash have participated in the past, Oakville's Ron McLean, obviously icons in the hockey world. We also managed to have a very successful charitable events with the Chili Fest we do with the firefighters and the pancake breakfast, which we did for the Alzheimer's Society.
I'm curious to know, the day that you walked into the Prime Minister's office and you said, Prime Minister, this is what I want to do. I want to run for the Ontario PC Party. What was that conversation like for you?
Well, obviously that's a conversation that I can't divulge. The conversations I have with the Prime Minister are privy to those involved, but let me just say I have a very good relationship with the Prime Minister, Stephen Harper. I think he's doing an excellent job serving our country, and he's someone that I think has a great understanding of the challenges both the country faces on a financial level and Ontario. And if you want to get good advice from someone on how to create jobs, how to deal with fiscal pressures, you know, he's a great source of advice.
And I'm sure he'll be very happy to have you be working with you if you were to become Premier. Moving on to some of the other challenges, I mean, how has the media been with you, and what's your comment kind of on how things sometimes get carried out of context or out of control during a campaign?
Well, you know, for the most part, the media has been good, especially Punjabi TV, Insider's View. Always a pleasure to deal with media in the Indo-Canadian community.
Well, we're happy to have you because you're just a very good supporter to our station and to our program. And the final thing that I want to get into, because I know this is a subject that you would love to talk about, because you're a hockey player. Wayne Gretzky decided to endorse your campaign. That must have been quite exciting.
You know, it got a lot of attention for sure. During a campaign, you never know which endorsement, which words will catch fire, but obviously Wayne Gretzky's support got widely recognized around the country and frankly beyond Canada. It certainly gave a lot of motivation to our membership sellers who said that an assist from the great one is inspiring, and Wayne's someone that I have always thought very highly of. I've got to know through charitable endeavors, got to know his extended family, whether it's his brother Glenn, his father Walter, or whether it was playing hockey for charity with Wayne, which I've done on a number of occasions. It's a real privilege to have the support of someone who is frankly a Canadian icon, a Canadian inspiration, a boy from Brantford who has gone on to do wonderful things for this country.
Well, we're hoping that a boy from Barrie is going to go on to win the Ontario leadership race, as well as perhaps the next election in Ontario. When we come back, we're going to find out a couple more things about Patrick Brown that perhaps you didn't know about. Welcome back. We're in conversation with Patrick Brown. It's so interesting to know about all the different things that you've been doing, not only in this leadership race, but as an MP. But I know that there's a couple of things that you haven't disclosed, which is, you love running, you love hockey, but I'm sure there's a couple of things you've done abroad that probably people don't know about.
Well, one of my favorite stories, I always talk about how India offers so many different opportunities, so many different exciting aspects of the country. Our High Commission helps facilitate every year a hockey tournament in the Himalayas. So when you think
hockey tournament. When
you think of ice hockey, you normally don't think of India, but believe it or not, up in Leh Ladakh, we have a vibrant, engaged ice hockey community. And I've had the pleasure twice of going there with the assistance of MP Devinder Shori from Calgary. We were able to get donations from the Toronto Maple Leafs, from the Calgary Flames, and to bring equipment to those who are taking up the sport in a relatively new period in India, where you're seeing the sport flourish in the Himalayas. And it's really something to see a town that has grown mad with hockey, in love with hockey. I even joined them and played with them up in the Himalayas, and that was a real treat.
That really speaks to Canada and India's relationship. So you see the sport maybe growing a little bit there?
It may be difficult to grow the sport in Mumbai or in the backwaters of Kerala, but in the Himalayas, where there's the temperature in the winter that allows it, because in the Himalayas it can be -30 during the winter months. We've certainly created a niche there where there is a successful hockey market.
You have such a close relationship with the South Asian community. What are some of your favorite things, like food, movies? What is it that you like the most about it?
The food, the friendliness, the entrepreneurialism. There's so many aspects of the community that I have found fascinating, and I've really delved into. I would say, though, that I've actually took up running actively when I've been in India. I've always enjoyed running marathons and half marathons, and I remember a few years ago I was participating in Vibrant Gujarat as one of the Canadian speakers. And after the conference, I looked up and noticed they were having the Standard Chartered Bank annual Mumbai Marathon. Oh, wow. So I got to participate with a bunch of friends in Mumbai, and I noticed, just as in Toronto and how we love our running, and the Scotiabank Marathon, the Good Life Marathon are massive successes, the Mumbai one is just as big, if not bigger, and the culture of running, the culture of fitness is growing rapidly in India as well.
If when you do become premier, let's just jump ahead for that. What are some of the main things that you would like to see with the relationship of India and Ontario specifically?
Well, I think we've just hit the tip of the iceberg. There is 1 billion potential consumers in India. that's a market that I want to have greater access to. I know Prime Minister Harper has led the way with an active bilateral relationship, but I think there's much more that Ontario can do, particularly when you look at the people-to-people connections, the relationships of family and friendship that exist in the Indo-Canadian diaspora give us a natural advantage. Not only do our governments share a common political heritage with the British parliamentary system, but we share very much a real family linkage given the growing diaspora in Canada. So I think that gives us an edge on bilateral trade if it's focused, if the government gives its focus. And I would, I've tried to do this on the federal level with the Canada-India Parliamentary Association, but I would love to give it more focus as Premier of Ontario.
And as Premier of Ontario, what are some of the other key messages that you would like to get out to our viewers?
At the end of the day, the themes I'm highlighting are: I'm going to build an education system based on employment opportunities. I'm going to build a healthcare system that serves the needs of patients, whether it's inside or outside of the hospital. And I'm going to create the conditions in Ontario where we have the successful conditions for job growth. And that means having the roads to get product to marketplace. It means cutting red tape. It means ending this disastrous Green Energy Act so we can have competitive hydro prices. And it means opposing the unneeded carbon tax that the Liberals are floating right now, and this job-killing pension scheme that would put a huge weight on the backs of business.
In your travels specifically, let's just say between Scarborough and Brampton, is there one issue that stands out more than another, or are they just pretty much all the same?
One issue that sort of has caught fire around the province, people are really frustrated with the competitive disadvantage that hydro prices puts on businesses in Ontario. The fact that our hydro prices aren't competitive with comparative jurisdictions speaks to the fact that the Liberal government has put a huge weight on the backs of business.
And when you become Premier, that's something that you really want to address.
Absolutely.
So last message to all the new members. I mean, you signed a lot more than your competitor, 40,000 new members to the PC party. It's something quite extraordinary. And what's your last message to all the members of the PC party?
The last message is participate, stay involved. Please go to my website at votepatrickbrown.ca. If you want to participate, you want to volunteer, you want to get more involved in politics. What betters our democracy, what strengthens our ability to revitalize the PC party and serve Ontario is your participation. Final question, if a young person's watching this show and wants to be in your shoes one day, what's the one piece of advice you'd like to give them? Don't hesitate to say, yes, I want to be involved. You can be a member of a political party as early as age 14. You may have to wait till you're 18 to vote, but you can participate as young as 14, and it's a political party. Current events are a great thing to get involved in. Okay, it's been a pleasure having you. We want to wish you the best of luck. We're really rooting for you here, and we look forward to seeing you on May 9th. Thank you. That's it for Insider's View. We'll talk to you soon.